Hey ho, and welcome to what in my world anyway is the third of a series of videos about my modern Icelandic magic sheet. Works pretty well for my Old Norse magic sheet as well, called Alaric's Modern Icelandic Magic Sheet, in which I try to describe really just what all these boxes mean if you've never kind of encountered a document like this before and you don't know anything about Icelandic grammar. So yeah, it's just a way into kind of understanding Icelandic grammar. And in the previous two videos in this series, we had a look at Icelandic nouns, and what I want to come on to now is looking at adjectives and how adjectives and nouns go together, because adjectives generally describe nouns, okay? So makes sense to kind of look at these. And this in particular fills a gap if you've done any of the MP3 Icelandic course that I've recorded and make my students kind of sit through, where we don't get into a lot of the complexities of adjectives in Icelandic. We just learn to use adjectives in very simple sentences, which spares us a lot of the kind of horrors of the Icelandic kind of adjectival system. What I want to take you into here are all the different forms that adjectives can take in Icelandic, and the magic sheet spells them out. That's not to say that I'm going to teach you all the grammar for how to use these adjectives, which is a bit hideous and difficult. What I do want you to do is to understand the different things that adjectives can get up to, roughly in what grammatical contexts they do it, and therefore to be able to kind of look at texts and go, oh, here's an adjective, and I was expecting it to be a kind of masculine nominative singular adjective, but it doesn't look quite right. Oh, maybe it's that other kind of adjective, and you'll kind of just know how to navigate it on the magic sheet. So hopefully you'll get to the point where you can kind of recognise and look up adjective endings. That's my main concern. When we did the nouns, we learnt that nouns sort of fall into different categories, which are kind of defined by the fact that they have slightly different endings on the nouns in, for each category. These categories kind of divide up into strong and weak nouns, and within strong and weak nouns there are also masculine, neuter and feminine nouns. Okay, so there are subdivisions, and each subdivision has its own set of endings. Even within strong masculine nouns, for example, there are kind of several different sets of endings that nouns can have, and each noun will belong to just one of those categories. The magic sheet has in bold the most common ones, and then the others are just kind of lurking in between for moments of desperation where you're like, ah, why doesn't this noun look right? Oh, it might be one of those. So we've investigated those different kind of noun endings. We've also investigated how nouns have different endings according to whether they're singular and plural, and even within that, according to whether they're doing a verb, in which case they're nominative, or having a verb done to them, in which case they're accusative, or owning another noun, in which case they're genitive, or coming after a preposition, a little word that tells you the position of things, in which case they are in the dative case. They have these dative forms. Or if they are being used instead of a preposition, that's another context in which you'd use that dative form. So hopefully you've got a reasonable understanding of why all of these different forms are listed for nouns on the magic sheet. So let's come on to adjectives. Adjectives like to agree with their nouns in the sense that if we've got a masculine noun, we'll expect it to be described by a masculine adjective. And if we've got a nominative noun, we'll expect it to be described by, well, a nominative masculine noun, it will be described by a nominative masculine adjective. And if it's a nominative and masculine and singular noun, it will be described by a nominative and masculine singular adjective. So one adjective, like langur, which is on the magic sheet, meaning long, one adjective has a full set of endings for all the situations where it's kind of masculine, nominative, accusative, genitive, dative, singular, masculine, nominative, accusative, genitive, dative, plural, and also neuter, nominative, accusative, and genitive, dative, singular, and neuter, nominative, accusative, and genitive, dative, plural, and feminine, nominative, accusative, dative, singular, and nominative, and accusative, and genitive, and dative, plural. Okay? So we'll explore that in just a sec, but we basically expect to match up a noun with a corresponding box on the magic sheet. Before we get into that though, I have to kind of get through one of the frustrating complications of Icelandic adjectives, and this complication is made worse by the terminology imposed upon us by 19th century grammarians, which I would gladly do without, but I'm basically stuck with, and so are you. Okay, we have strong and weak nouns. A noun is inherently either strong or weak. So the noun fiskur, meaning fish, is a strong masculine noun, and it can only be a strong masculine noun. And the noun near me is a weak masculine noun. It means a student, and it can only be a weak masculine noun. It can only belong to that category of endings that nouns have. It doesn't kind of borrow endings from elsewhere. It's just a strong masculine noun. This isn't true for adjectives. So any adjective can be strong or weak, apart from a couple of really arcane exceptions. But basically any adjective can be strong or weak. Okay? And you might expect the adjective to become weak when it's describing a weak noun, and you might expect the adjective to become strong when it's describing a strong noun. No. Nicer that would be. That is not how the system works, and it's very confusing that they have the names that they do. An adjective is strong or weak depending on its grammatical context, and not on the noun that it's describing. So we'll explore this in just a minute. Getting to know exactly when to use strong nouns and weak nouns in Icelandic is quite tricky. The kind of rules and conventions are quite complex, and I'm not going to attempt to kind of produce you as a sort of person who can kind of come out with idiomatic Icelandic adjectives every time from these videos. I just want you to have the key sense of when to use which kind. And it's kind of easiest to start with the strong adjectives. Those are used when they're describing words which don't have the word the attached to them, or don't have a similar word like my or this. So hopefully you can understand that, like my dog, the dog, this dog, they're all referring to a specific dog, a definite dog, and in those circumstances we wouldn't expect to use a strong adjective. Okay, strong adjectives are used when we're dealing with a dog or some dogs. Okay, it's kind of indefinite. Or in a sentence, as I'll show in a minute, where there's enough distance between the adjective and the noun that even if the noun has got the on the end, the adjective's far away enough that they're like, okay, well, use a strong adjective. So strong adjectives are kind of our default setting. They're used when a noun doesn't have a definite article or something similar attached to it. Let's look at this in practice, because it's probably the least difficult way to get your head around it, at least to an acceptable degree. Okay, we've just got a simple sentence here. Ba lærir sögu frá bókum. Ba, a child, lærir, learns, sögu, a saga, frá, from, bókum, books. Who's doing this sentence? Who's doing the learning here? Right, hopefully we're all agreed that it's the ba, it's the child. So the ba is the subject of this sentence, and therefore it's going to be a nominative noun. Okay, ba is nominative. What's the child learning? What's the object of this sentence? Well, it's clearly the saga. Okay, ba lærir sögu. The child's learning a saga. So the saga is the object of the sentence, and that's going to be an accusative noun. Okay, and that's why it doesn't have the form saga, which you'll find if you look at the nominative weak feminine nouns on your magic sheet. That's what it would be. Saga is what it would be if it was doing the verb, but it's having the verb done to it, so it has the form sögu, accusative form. Frá, frá is a preposition, a little word that tells us the position of things. Okay, and after a preposition, ordinarily we expect a word to be in the dative. There are lots of exceptions to this, but we're going to stick with that principle because it covers most circumstances. Okay, so bókum is dative. All dative plurals end in regardless of whether they're masculine, feminine, or neuter, or strong or weak. Hallelujah! So bókum, clearly a nice dative plural, from books. Okay, so we've got three different nouns, each of which is in a different case, and we've got two genders. Batn is neuter, sögu and bókum are both feminine. So now we're going to describe them, and they're all going to be long, because long is the adjective that we've got on the magic sheet. But you could slot in any other adjective here, and the endings that you can see here would apply. The same principles would apply. Okay, so if we've got a long child, I'm going to have to look at our magic sheet, and all of the adjectives at the moment are strong because it's not the child, it's not the saga, and it's not the books. Okay, it's just a child, a saga, some books. So we're going to be looking at strong adjectives, and batn is neuter, so we're going to look at the weak adjectives, and it's nominative, so and it's singular. There's only one. So we're going to look at the nominative singular strong neuter adjectives, and we have the form langt. Okay, so we could just put that in. Langt ba. Okay, so it's got that t on the end saying I'm neuter, I'm strong, I'm singular, I'm nominative. Okay. What about Sergu? So again, I have to look up Sergu on the magic sheet, and again, it's strong. We find the feminine column. This time we've got to find the accusative singular feminine column. So we follow the A for accusative over, and we get to lanka. Okay, lanka. Langt ba, leirir, lanka, Sergu, and then Frau Bolkum. Okay, they're in the plural, so we're going to have to go down to the plural section of our adjectives. Still strong. It's dative because it's after a preposition, and it's feminine because books are feminine. That's the deal. So we look at our dative, feminine, plural, strong adjectives, and we find löngum. Okay, so we can put in löngum. Yeah. Okay. Laugt, ba, leirir, lanka, Sergu, Frau, löngum, Bolkum. You can go away and learn all of these endings and learn to go lanker, lankan, lanks, löngum. Sorry, moment of panic there. You'll find that the adjective endings are similar to, but not the same as, the corresponding noun endings. Typical. So it's again a little bit of confusion. But once you kind of learn to navigate the magic sheet, you can kind of see all of that working in front of you, so you can negotiate it. And hopefully you've now got a clear sense of how adjectives and nouns will agree with each other in respect of number, gender, and case, and how we can find the right adjective in the strong bit. Let's just get another kind of sentence where you would use a strong adjective. And that might be the child, or no, let's have a fish this time, so we've got a masculine one in the picture. So, what's the fish? A fish is, and it's doing the verb, it's just fisker. What's the fish? Fisker in. Okay? So, we'll get rid of those brackets actually, because we actually want this definite article here. Fisker in, all one word. The fish. Okay? Masculine, nominative, and singular. It's got the on the end, so we might not normally expect to use a weak adjective here. Sorry, we might not normally expect to use a strong adjective here, because it's got the definite article on the end. But if we've got a sentence like, the fish is long, okay, because the adjective is on the far side of this verb, meaning is, then it's also going to be strong. It's far away enough from the verb, from the word the, that it goes into its kind of default strong form. So the fish is long, easy. We just go to masculine, strong, nominative, singular adjectives, and we find lanker. Fiskerin lanker. Cool. So hopefully you can understand how you could come up with an Icelandic sentence with no thes in it, and then work your way through the magic sheet, kind of matching up the right adjective endings with the right genders and cases and numbers of the nouns. That's how the system works. Let's just get a couple of examples of weak adjectives then. There we go. You see weak adjectives often in epithets of ancient saga heroes. So let's take a guy called Haraldur in Hárfagri. Okay. No, let's not, because Fagri is a bit irregular. Let's take Grettir in Sterki instead. Grettir the strong. So here's Grettir. He is a masculine strong noun. It's got a slightly funny ending. He's one of the kind of slightly funny ending nouns on the magic sheet. Let's do it in modern spelling. Hin means the, okay? And then as an adjective, sterker, that would be its normal masculine nominative singular form, meaning strong, okay? But we can't say Grettir the sterker, because this word the is going to be right next to the adjective, okay? And that's going to make the adjective weak. So now we've got to look at weak adjectives on the magic sheet. So we go to our adjectives, and Grettir is masculine, so we go to our masculine column, and Grettir, well, let's say he's doing this sentence. Let's have Grettir the strong ate a fish. Grettir hin, whatever, borðaði fisk. Borðaði ate fisk, a fish. Okay? So Grettir the strong, we can't have sterker. We look at our weak adjectives on the magic sheet, and we look at our weak masculines, and we look at our nominative singular weak masculines because there's only one grechtir and he's doing the verb, and we see the form lanki. Okay, so if he was grechtir the long, he would be grechtir hin lanki. But he's going to be strong, sterker, so he's not going to be sterkur, he's going to be sterk I. Yeah, grechtir hin sterki. So that's an example of a weak adjective. And if you had, the fish, the big fish went shopping, something like that, again, we would use a weak adjective there. So hopefully that helps you to understand when you need to look at this weak adjective part of the magic sheet. But mostly, you can just think of adjectives by default as being strong. That's your normal kind. And then if the endings are looking strange and not really kind of adding up, then you might be like, maybe it's weak. And you can kind of think, is there a definite article or the word my or this or that lurking next to this adjective, causing it to change its form? Cool. One footnote about adjectives. Weirdly and kind of inconsistently, Icelandic thinks that the word my and the word your in the singular, so kind of thy, Icelandic thinks of those as adjectives too. It doesn't think of his and hers as being adjectives, or their dogs. It doesn't think that those are adjectives, and we'll come on to them in a different video. But it thinks that the word my and the word your in the singular are adjectives. In Old Icelandic, it did this with plural words as well. So our and your in the plural. Modern Icelandic is more kind of restrained than that, happily. But if you have a look on your magic sheet, you'll see that I've listed the possessive adjective lurking at the end of the adjectives. It only comes in strong form because if you're talking about my dog, by definition the dog is definite, right? It's my dog, it's not like a random dog, a dog, it's my dog. So that makes the dog definite, and Icelanders are like, well, fine, in that case we're going to kind of just have an adjective that matches up with that. And so min doesn't have strong and weak forms, it's just got this one strong form. And min means my, and you can see that it's just got this kind of whole set of different masculine, neuter and feminine, nominative, accusative, genitive and dative, singular and plural endings. So if we wanted to have Grettir hin sterki ate my fish, okay, we would look on here. Fisk is masculine, there's only one of them, but it's not the subject of the sentence, it's the object of the sentence, it's having the verb done to it, so it's going to be accusative. So we find our accusative, masculine, singular, possessive adjective, min, and say on the magic sheet, and we can put it in. Grettir hin sterki borðaði min fisk. Okay? Do I want to add anything to that? Yeah, and if it was thy fish, your fish in the singular, you just change that first sound to a th. Thin fisk. So, yeah, my is min and yours is thin. Or all of the different endings that it can have on it as well. Hopefully you won't encounter that too much, so it won't kind of trouble you too much. And basically, if you see a little word beginning with M and it's next to a noun, it probably means my. But that gives you a reasonable tour of how adjectives work in Icelandic. Thanks.